Hello there, sports fans. This is Rob, the baseball time traveler. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to go back to 1967 and take a close look at the World Series between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Boston Red Sox. As I usually do, I'd give you a little brief overview of what happened in 1967, some of the major events. January 15th, the very first AFL-NFL championship game between the Chiefs and the Packers. It wasn't called the Super Bowl until the following year after the Chiefs owner, Lamar Hunt, kind of accidentally came upon the name Super Bowl as a result of his kids playing with a newly developed toy, which I remember fondly, and many of you in your 60s and 70s and older would remember as the Super Bowl. So anyway, the Chiefs had a tough time against the two-time at that time defending NFL champion Packers, and the game itself was only attended by 63,000 people. You can see at the far end of the Coliseum there, pretty sparse crowd. It was televised by both CBS and NBC, who had contracts to televise the game. It was blacked out in Los Angeles. I watched it actually with my Little League teammates and all the dads. We had gone over to one of my friends' houses, and we were able to watch the game there. It was blacked out, but technically, I guess they figured out some way to pirate the game way back then. Also in 1967, guess what showed up in the fast food chain McDonald's? The Big Mac was introduced. Take a look at that price, 45 cents. And the fellow who invented it, looks like it took him a few experiments to achieve the Big Mac, as evidenced by his girth. Anyway, Big Mac, 45 cents in 1967, no longer that price. And on a more serious note, in October, during the World Series, the first African American was sworn in as a Supreme Court justice. This would be Thurgood Marshall. All right, so let's get to the games. We have the Cardinals versus the Red Sox, and this is a classic matchup. I think both teams had met back in 1946, so it was a rematch of sorts. And going into the game, Carl Yastrzemski and Lou Brock were two of the stars for each of the respective teams. Yaz had quite a year, as we'll talk about as the video goes on. All right, game one took place at Fenway Park. Green monster there. There's a shot from the 1967 series. We'll introduce the teams. There's a great shot of all the starting players, and on the far right is manager Dick Williams. And we'll start off with his card, Hall of Fame manager. And then we'll go to the Cardinals, managed by Hall of Famer Red Schoendienst. Two of the other stars of the game, the NL National League MVP, Orlando Cepeda, and the American League MVP, Carl Yastrzemski, both Hall of Famers. Yaz had a great year in 1967, won the Triple Crown, and look at those impressive statistics: 326 batting average, 44 home runs. He tied with Harmon Killebrew in that category, and then had 121 RBI. Quite a year. And then you have Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, Bob Gibson, who was the 1964 World Series MVP. You can take a look at his amazing career records there. We'll take a look at his card, 1967 Bob Gibson card. And because the following year he had such a spectacular season, I want to show you a 68 card as well, a little bonus card. He had a 1.12 ERA, still the all-time Major League record for a season, and just had a phenomenal career. Bullet Bob Gibson. And Jim Lonborg won the 1967 Cy Young, and he was a relative relatively unknown pitcher at that point, but had a career year in 1967. And here's his card. And we'll talk about Jim Lonborg in a little more detail as we go along, but I also wanted to show you his rookie card. Nice looking card from 1965. Have to introduce the opposing catchers. Former Yankee Elston Howard, who was traded to the Red Sox during the '67 season. There's his card. And for the Cardinals, longtime broadcaster and heck of a good ball player as well, Tim McCarver. And I want to mention, I have a special note here. This is Tony Conigliaro. In August of '67, he was beamed and injured very seriously. As you can see, the damage to his left eye there in the upper left-hand corner photo. He was injured and lost. He was lost for the remainder of the season. But I wanted to kind of honor him because he was actually an up-and-coming ball player. Was one of the youngest, if not the youngest, to reach 100 career home runs. I think he was only 22 at the time, and he won the actual home run title as a 20-year-old rookie. And here's his 1967 card. And also want to show you his rookie card from 1964. Tony C. He tried to make a comeback, had a few good years, but never really fully recovered and regained the status that he had already achieved prior to the injury. Very sad story, but just wanted to honor Tony. And let's get to game one. We have Hall of Famer Bob Gibson against essentially World Series rookie Jose Santiago. Found some great photographs I wanted to show you. Here's a great shot of Yaz making a spectacular catch of line drive Curt Flood heading back toward the Green Monster. Lou Brock was the hero of game one, had 4 hits in the opening game, and Roger Maris drove in both runs to secure a 2-1 victory for the Cardinals. Game two, Jim Lonborg started. The reason why he didn't start game one, he actually had to pitch the final game of the season when the Red Sox finally clinched the pennant over the Tigers and I believe the Twins. And the Cardinals, on the other hand, had won quite handily their pennant chase or race against the Giants. I think they won by 10.5 games. But Jim Lonborg had a no-hitter going all the way into the 8th inning and ultimately gave up a hit to Julian Javier, I believe, and then finished the game with a 1-hitter. Yaz led the way offensively, had hit 2 home runs. And here he's greeted by his teammates. I neglected to show you Jose Santiago's card, so let's get that out of the way right now. And then we've got Lou Brock, the star of the game one. I want to get that card out there for you right now, too. And Roger Maris, who drove in the 2 runs in game one. There's his 1967 card. All right, I'm catching up now with the cards. All right, greeting Yaz at home plate there. Looks to be Jose Tartable. And first baseman George Scott. Game 3, we move to Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and Mike Shannon leads the offensive attack for the Cardinals. Hits a 2-run home run. And Nelson Briles, who had come in during midseason after Bob Gibson fractured his ankle in July, Briles came in and I believe won about 10 consecutive games and really picked up the slack until Bullet Bob came back and had a great game 3 here as the Cards won 5-2. Bob Gibson returns for game 4 and throws a complete game 6-0 shutout. Game 5, Jim Lonborg is back on the mound, so we haven't had a face-to-face confrontation between Lonborg and Gibson yet, but Lonborg comes back, and they're still in St. Louis at this point, and the only hit, Lonborg gave up 2 hits, and one of them, the only run, was Roger Maris' solo home run in the 9th inning. Lonborg was so successful for those 2 games, he completed both, gave up a total of only 4 hits, which ended up being a World Series record. Game 6, Yaz hits his 3rd home run of the series. Great shot there. And rookie Reggie Smith hits a home run, his 2nd of the series. And then followed by Rico Petrocelli, who hit 2 home runs in the game, but the Yaz, Smith, and Petrocelli home runs came consecutively, and that was quite an impressive feat, and that allowed the Red Sox to win the game and tie the series up at 3-3. Just want to take a few moments here to focus on Lou Brock, who I really consider kind of the prior to Ricky Henderson, was the greatest base stealer of all time. He had kind of taken over from Maury Wills, who had dominated in the early 1960s. And you could see his record there, 52 stolen bases in 1967. He led the National League for 8 seasons and finished his career with 938 career stolen bases. And here's some great shots. He ended up stealing 7 bases during this World Series, which was a new record, and I don't think it's been broken since. Here's Curt Flood. I want to show you his pictures. Actually, I've forgotten a few cards. I'm sorry, I'm kind of messing this up a little bit tonight. We got Rico Petrocelli here. Got to show you all the cards here, for goodness sakes. And here's rookie Reggie Smith. It's a good-looking card. And we also have Curt Flood. One of the more historic figures in the game of baseball. And I'll show you Roger Maris's 1968 card, because that 67 card, if you look closely, is actually in Yankee pinstripes. So I wanted to get you a card that depicts Roger in his Cardinals uniform. And here's a great shot of Lou after Curt Flood hit that line drive into the outfield. Brock comes home. Great shot of him avoiding the tag of Elston Howard. All right, Game 7. Free seats up there for the boys. Only $12 for a box seat. Little different pricing these days. You've got Gibson going against Lonborg. Classic. Gibson had a little bit more rest. Lonborg comes in with only 2 days rest. And that ended up being a factor because Jim really wasn't on his game. And Bob actually helped his own cause by hitting a home run. So Gibson smacks a home run. Gibson smacks a home run. This is 21 years later. Kirk Gibson, we all remember this one. And the famous call by Jack Buck, "I don't believe what I just saw." So there's Kirk Gibson's card. I had to throw that in there for a little more modern look. Julian Javier, star shortstop for the Cardinals. Second baseman. Here's the shortstop, Dal Maxwell. Here's Julian Javier's card. And he hit a 3-run home run, which really sealed the victory for the Cardinals. They won quite handily. Here he is coming home, greeted by his teammates, Dal Maxfield, Mike Shannon, and Tim McCarver. And here's Mike Shannon's card. I didn't get the 67 card because I think it's a high number and I didn't feel like paying the price for it. But Gibson mops up, finishes the game, greeted by McCarver. His teammates surround him. Look at those statistics. He wins his third complete game of the series. He's 5-1 career World Series record, and he won his second World Series MVP. Good for you, Bob Gibson. And that should do it for today, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Really appreciate you taking the time. And if you stuck with me through this, please know that I'm putting all those cards that you saw today up for sale. So if you're interested in acquiring or taking a closer look at any of those cards, just leave a message in the comments below and I'll respond to you and maybe we can work out a deal. But in the meantime, have a great day and I'll see you next time.